Hi there, I'm Gary and I'm an ordinary bloke doing stuff. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. Now today I'm building the Grumman F4F-4 Wildcat in 1/72 from Airfix, and I'm getting the model from this set, the Dogfight Double, where it's pitched with the Mitsubishi Zero. Now the build of the Wildcat is exactly the same as the one that you can buy as a standalone kit. Okay, the differences will be in the color scheme and the decals, but the actual build will be the same. So we'll have a look at the history of the Wildcat. We'll have a look at the bits in here that come to build your Wildcat, and then I'll show you how I build it. All of these bits come as separate chapters in the video, so you can hop backwards and forwards, whilst you're waiting for a wing to set, have a look at the history, that kind of thing, as you desire. Okay, so why don't we make a start? With its bulky fuselage and squat hand-cranked undercarriage, the Grumman F4F Wildcat carrier-based fighter served in the US Navy and Marine Corps and the British Fleet Air Arm for most of the Second World War. The Wildcat derived its heritage from Grumman's biplane fighters, such as the two-seat FF and the single-seat F2F and F3F. By the mid-1930s, the US Navy was looking for a new monoplane fighter, initially favouring the Brewster F2A, also called the Buffalo. However, the US Navy issued an order to Grumman for its design, the F4F2, just in case. Now this was proved inferior in some respects to the Buffalo, so Grumman completely rebuilt the prototype as the XF4F3 with the huge Pratt & Whitney Twin Wasp radial engine and new wings. This new aircraft was ordered in bulk. The Wildcat first entered service with the Royal Navy, where it was known as the Martlet. In the early years of the war it performed superbly, earning praise from legendary test pilot Eric Winkelbrown, who flew them on combat missions. Their compact size, low landing speed and unique wing folding system meant they were ideal for smaller ships such as escort carriers. The first kill by a Martlet was on Christmas Day 1940, when an aircraft based in the Orkneys shot down a German Junkers Ju-88 bomber. After the USA entered the war in 1941, the Wildcat was used extensively in carrier-based operations in the Pacific Theatre. Its rugged undercarriage was designed for the US method of carrier landings, although even that couldn't save every pilot's blushes. In the early days of the war, the Wildcat fell foul of the superb Japanese Zero fighter, but improved tactics soon turned this around, and the Wildcat's ability to absorb amazing amounts of combat damage was invaluable. Some 7,860 Wildcats were built, and around 20 of these are still airworthy, including this Martlet 1, with a similar number on display in museums. As I said earlier, I'm building this Wildcat from the Dogfight Double set, so the standalone model will be packaged a bit differently. Well, in here we have various plastic bags. This first one is the dynamic stand, so you can display the Wildcat and Zero together, but not for me today. And then we have a bag with all the bits for the Wildcat that I'll look at again in a moment. Then there's this bag of parts of the Zero. I've already made this and it's on my channel if you want to look. And there's a bag with 9 pots of paint, 2 brushes and a tube of polystyrene cement. Included is this double leaflet of instructions. Again, in the standalone kit you'll obviously just have the Wildcat. In this leaflet the Wildcat comes first, followed by the Zero. Everything pretty much as usual for Airfix, with well drawn and clear instructions. Then we have this decal sheet. Again, the standalone will be different. Here the sheet includes both aircraft, so the Wildcat is here in the top half. These are nicely printed with good colours and sharp edges, as is pretty much the standard today. The bag with the bits for the Wildcat is here. This is the same content as you get in the standalone kit. There are 4 grey plastic sprues for the aircraft itself, plus 1 clear sprue with the canopy. The moulds look okay, but there are some bits of flash to clean up later. It's holding up reasonably well for a tooling from 2015. In this gift set, the Wildcat and Zero come together, so you get a token for 2 flying hours. Note that it says skill level 2 and the standalone says it's also skill level 2. But of course, with the standalone kit, you only get the 1 flying hour. Now, you can collect flying hours as a member of the Airfix Club towards a free kit in the future, or you can donate them to Models for Heroes. A link to this excellent charity is in the information box below. Now let's see how I made the Airfix Wildcat. I have given the parts a wash in a gentle detergent and let them dry, then given everything a light coat of primer. Then I can spray interior green on the bits that need it, including the insides of the fuselage. The cockpit floor is here and I'm going to add some colour detail. Brass for the fire extinguisher, for example, then aluminium straps and an outlet pipe. Now, I doubt I'll ever see this again, but it's fun to practice. Then there are some decals for the inside of the cockpit that need to go on. I'll use reverse tweezers to hold the backing paper and a brush to nudge the decals into position. The next bit of prep is to paint this headrest in black. Then I can do the instrument panel. Now, something I've learnt to do is to cut out this notch in the decal. On the panel, the gun sight kind of sits down a bit, and on loads of different kits, this gets in the way of the decal. So very carefully cut it out. Then when the decal goes on, it can just slide into place really easily. Next I'll add some wash to the insides of the cockpit, the floor, the rear frame and so on, and also to the rear bulkhead of the undercarriage bay. While those are drying, I'm going to repair the control column that I found was broken while it was on the sprue. It's a bit of a pain, but it's not beyond just a little dab of glue. When everything's ready, I'll add the rear frame to the back of the cockpit. Then I'll slide in the pre-painted seat. After that, the repaired control column can go in and I'll give it a quick touch-up of paint. Then the instrument panel is next to complete the cockpit area. Then the whole thing pushes onto pegs on the back of the undercarriage rear wall, like this. Before we can put the fuselage together, there are 2 windows, one on each side, that need to go in. A dab of clear PVA or a tiny spot of ultra-thin cement will hold them in place. Now, the next thing to do is to assemble the undercarriage, which is where I think the skill level 2 stuff comes in. First, this keel piece has to sit on top of the lower wishbone. Then the upper wishbones, complete with dampers, need to go on. These clip into the lower wishbone and sit into an inset in the keel. Then there is a crosslink that needs to connect to both legs. Then the forward support brace. And a central strengthening brace. Finally, there are 2 undercarriage doors. Once it's all dry, the undercarriage set can attach to the bulkhead. There are 2 mountings at the top and one for the keel to sit in at the bottom. With those dry, finally I can assemble the fuselage. Now the stub spars go through the side of the fuselage so the cockpit assembly can sit in place. Then the other side can slip over the other spar into place. I found the fit really good. Just tape it up to set. While the fuselage is drying, I'll start on the engine. This forward bank of cylinders looks a bit over-moulded, not as crisp as others I've seen. Once it's taken off the sprue with snippers, I need to tidy up the tops of the cylinders with a craft knife. Just press gently and let the edge do the work. I also need to drill out the hole for the prop axle, as this hasn't been moulded correctly. There's some flash over it. When that is done, the stub axle can be pushed through, then the rear bank of cylinders can be glued to the back. I've done just a tiny bit of sanding on the fuselage, so any gaps in the fit show up. Here the join is very close, but it will need just a tiny amount of milliput to fill in. But before we do that, I'm going to do the wing roots. My kit will have the folded wings, so the roots are these stubby things. I do need to drill out these 1mm holes for mounting the fuel tanks later, then the stub halves fit together, and are set aside in clamps to dry. While I'm waiting for the wing stubs, I'll fit the engine to the front of the fuselage. I've given it a coat of metal colour burnt iron. I think it looks better than gunmetal. Then the cowling can go on. Just make sure you align these small cutouts for the exhaust stubs underneath. Now for the wing stubs, there's this kind of raised central bit that the wings clip over, as well as sliding onto the spar. This works for the extended wing as well as the folding wing. The outer wing panels just slot together like this with a bit of glue and some clamps to hold them while they set. I can take a break from the main part of the build again to do a few other things, like gluing together the halves of the long-range fuel tanks and painting the propeller. I've already done the hub in aluminium, so the rest of each blade is plain black. Now I'm just going to draw around the windshield here so I can see how much to paint with anti-glare black for the inside. When that's done, I can add the canopy. I'm doing the closed canopy, which comes in one piece. The kit also includes separate windshield and canopy for the open position. I'll start on the wheels at this point as well. The hubs in the underside light Gull grey colour. The tyres I'll paint later. Back on the propellers I need to do yellow tips, so I'll lay down some white first. I've yet to find an acrylic yellow that can go straight down over black and still really pop out the way it does this way. I'll also add the stub exhausts to the underside of the fuselage at this point. When the canopy is set, and it might be best to leave it overnight, I'll mask for spraying. Now I'm using a white PVC tape. I'll lay it along one window line and then use the sharp end of a wooden toothpick to chase in the frame lines. Then a fresh number 11 blade to cut along them. The excess will just pull off. Then I can add a quick coat of primer. Now I've sprayed the undersides with light gold grey and added a quick thin coat of satin varnish before I can mask off the edge of the paint. I'll use the same PVC tape but a bit thinner. Note how I've masked off the undercarriage already. Unfortunately, you have to put in the gear legs before you assemble the fuselage. With the main cut-off lines in place, I can add some curves, which I think the PVC does really very smoothly. That done, I can fill in the rest of the gaps with normal masking tape and start spraying the upper surface with a dark sea grey. Now while all of that is drying, I'll go back to the wheels. Here I use a fine pen to chase in the edge of the tyres, then paint them with Tyre Black. For the exposed parts between the wing and fuselage, I'll add some white paint, as I think they use that instead of the interior green quite a lot of the time. I'll do the same for the outer wing panels that I've already sprayed. After another quick coat of satin varnish, I'll make a start on decals. Plenty of decal setting solution. I use Microset, And the decals will take up some of the panel lines, so I can do a panel wash later. Next I'll fit the long range tanks I did earlier, then I can put on the tailplane and fin, or horizontal and vertical stabilisers if you will. The tailplane just slots into place, but do make sure the joint is free of paint or it just won't fit. Then I can remove the canopy masks. Be careful with the knife tip not to mark the plastic. Next, the outer wings can go on in the folding position and leave them to set. The really important thing is that they're both at the same height. When they are set, the ailerons can go in. These point vertically. The arrestor hook slots into the tail like so, and the radio mast goes on the back of the fuselage. It has a pronounced forwards lean. The pitot tube can go under the port wing like so, then the bracing lock bars can go between the wingtip and the tailplane. If the wings aren't absolutely right, this bar will be too long, but you can trim it just a bit. Lastly, the painted wheels go on. Then the propeller sits on the front of the engine, and my F4F4 Wildcat is complete. Now, I love a wing folded kit, and the Wildcat is one of the easier ones to do. Most of the parts go together well, although the complex undercarriage means it earns the skill level 2 badge, and there is some flash suggesting the moulds are getting a little bit tired. However, if you do this as an airborne kit with retracted gear, perhaps in the dogfight double with the Zero, it's really quite straightforward. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, for more builds and other projects as they're done in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.